I woke up at 2 a.m. to use the bathroom, and that's when I saw it. My husband, Marc, standing at our kitchen counter in the dark, crushing pills into powder with the back of a spoon. My evening chamomile tea sat right next to him, steam still rising from the cup. He didn't hear me. I watched him stir the powder in, watched him rinse the spoon, watched him set the mug exactly where he always left it for me. And in that moment, standing there in my own hallway in the house we'd shared for 12 years, I realized I had no idea who I'd married. I'm going to tell you exactly what I found and what I did to make sure he never saw it coming. My name is Claire. I'm 38. I've been married to Marc for 12 years, and until 6 months ago, I would have told you we had the kind of marriage people envied. He's a corporate attorney. I run a small graphic design business from home. No kids yet. We'd been trying, actually. We had date nights. We laughed together. When he'd come home late from the office, he'd always bring me my favorite tea from that little shop downtown, and we'd talk about our days. About 8 months ago, Marc hired a new legal secretary, Ashley, 24 years old, fresh out of paralegal school, eager to impress. He mentioned her a few times, said she was a hard worker, stayed late to help with cases. I didn't think anything of it. Why would I? I trusted him completely. Then the tea routine started. Every evening around 9, Marc would make me this beautiful cup of chamomile tea. He'd bring it to me while I was working, kiss the top of my head, tell me to relax. "You work too hard, babe," he'd say. It was sweet, thoughtful, the kind of thing I'd brag about to my friends. Marc takes such good care of me. I started sleeping like the dead. I'm talking 12, 13 hours straight. I'd wake up groggy, disoriented, sometimes still in my clothes from the night before. Marc would already be showered and dressed, sometimes just getting home from an early gym session. Or so he said. I went to my doctor. She ran tests. Everything came back normal. She suggested maybe I was depressed, burned out, prescribed me iron supplements. I believed her. The late nights at the office got more frequent. 3-4 times a week, Marc wouldn't come home until 2 or 3 in the morning. "Big case," he'd say. "Ashley and I are drowning in depositions." I'd be so deeply asleep I wouldn't even hear him come in. But that wasn't even the worst part. 2 months ago, I started waking up with bruises I couldn't explain. Small ones on my arms and legs. When I asked Marc about them, he looked genuinely concerned. "Honey, you've been so out of it lately. You probably bumped into something and don't remember." He suggested I see a neurologist. He was so convincing that I actually made an appointment. I was terrified something was wrong with my brain. My best friend Rachel was the first person to say something felt off. We were having lunch, and I mentioned how exhausted I'd been, how Marc had been so sweet making me tea every night. She got this look on her face. "Claire," she said carefully, "doesn't it seem weird that you only sleep like that after he makes you tea?" I laughed it off, defended him, told her she'd been watching too many true crime documentaries. But that seed of doubt was planted. That night, I pretended to drink my tea, poured it into my water bottle when Marc went to the bathroom, went to bed at my normal time, faked being asleep, and then I waited. At 11:47 p.m., I heard our bedroom door close. I heard Marc in the bathroom, showering, humming to himself. I heard him get dressed. I heard our front door open and close. I heard his car start. I got up and checked his location on Find My Friends. We'd always shared locations, another sign of our perfect trust. He was at the Meridian, a boutique hotel downtown, the same hotel where his firm sometimes put up clients. Stay with me, because what I found next is the part that still keeps me up at night. I drove there, sat in the parking garage. At 12:30 a.m., I watched Marc walk into the lobby. 5 minutes later, Ashley met him. She was wearing a black dress and heels. He kissed her, not a peck, a real kiss, his hand on her lower back, her fingers in his hair. Then they walked to the elevator together. I sat in that car for an hour, shaking. Then I went home, climbed back into bed, and pretended to be unconscious when he slipped in beside me at 3 a.m., smelling like hotel soap and her perfume. The next morning, while he was in the shower, I took a photo of the tea box he'd been using. Chamomile blend with valerian root, he'd told me. Relaxing and natural. I looked up valerian root. It's a mild sedative, safe in normal amounts. I scheduled an appointment with a toxicologist and had my blood drawn. I told her everything. The extreme fatigue, the memory gaps, the timing with the tea. She ran a full panel. 3 days later, she called me. Zolpidem, Ambien. In levels consistent with someone taking 2 to 3 times the normal dose, for months. I hung up and cried on my kitchen floor for 20 minutes. Then I called a divorce attorney. Then I called a locksmith. Then I got to work, and what I did next. Most people told me I'd gone too far. I kept pretending. For 2 weeks, I poured that tea down the sink and faked being drugged. I documented everything. I hired a private investigator who confirmed they'd been meeting at that hotel 3 nights a week for 5 months. I got photos, timestamps, credit card receipts. Marc thought he'd hidden. He'd been paying for the room, flowers for her, jewelry. I copied all his financial records. Turns out he'd spent over $40,000 on this affair. Dinners, gifts, weekend trips, he told me, were work conferences. I'd been home, unconscious, while he'd taken her to Napa Valley. I gathered every pill bottle in our house and had them analyzed. He'd been stealing Ambien from his mother, who had a prescription for insomnia, crushing them, drugging me, for months. Then I filed for divorce, but I didn't tell him. Instead, I had the papers and a police report delivered to him at his office by a uniformed officer, in front of his managing partners, his colleagues, and Ashley. The report detailed the toxicology results, the drugging, the photographs from the hotel. I filed a restraining order. I changed every lock in our house. I froze our joint accounts. His career imploded within 48 hours. The firm put him on immediate administrative leave. The Bar Association opened an ethics investigation. Drugging your spouse to cover up an affair? That's not just divorce material. That's potentially criminal. Ashley got fired the same day. Turns out the firm has a strict policy about relationships between attorneys and staff, and they'd been signing into that hotel using the firm's corporate account. Marc called me 37 times that first day, left voicemails crying, begging, saying it wasn't what it looked like, saying he loved me, that he'd been confused, that he'd made a mistake. The same man who'd been poisoning me, who'd convinced me I was losing my mind, now wanted forgiveness. I didn't answer a single call. The divorce took 4 months. I got the house, 70% of our assets, and a settlement that reflected both the affair and the drugging. His lawyer tried to negotiate. Mine had the toxicology report, the PI photos, and a signed affidavit from the hotel staff. We didn't negotiate. Last I heard, Marc's working for a small firm in another state. Ashley's living with her parents. They're not together. Apparently, she wanted nothing to do with him once everything came out. Turns out being someone's dirty secret is only fun until there are consequences. I'm still in our house. I redecorated his office into my studio. I sleep perfectly now. Real sleep, the kind where you wake up naturally and actually feel rested. I've started dating again. Slowly. Carefully. I'm not sure I'll ever trust someone the way I trusted Marc, and maybe that's okay. Maybe a little healthy skepticism isn't the worst thing. I think about that night a lot. Standing in my hallway, watching him poison my tea. How many times had I thanked him for taking care of me? How many times had I felt guilty for sleeping so much, for being tired, for not being present enough? He didn't just betray me. He made me doubt my own mind and body. He made me think I was broken. And he did it all while looking me in the eye every morning and asking how I slept. If there's one thing I want you to take from my story, it's this. Trust your gut. If something feels wrong, even if you can't explain it, even if everyone around you says you're being paranoid, investigate. Ask questions. You are not crazy. You are not broken. And you deserve someone who would never make you question your own reality. I got my life back. It looks different than I planned, but it's mine, completely, fully mine. And I sleep like a baby every single night. If this story resonated with you, subscribe. I share a new story every single week. And drop a comment below if you've ever been betrayed by someone you completely trusted. You are not alone, and you will get through this.